What's going on, everyone? Goddrifter here, and I apologize for that really short live stream. Yeah, well, I tried to I look up a sounds on Instagram, and I'm like, huh, that seems an interesting movie. And then try to see how my live stream is doing. Turns out that it was the ser- turns out it was disconnected from the server. So for the most part, what that means is literally, um, like literally, um, it means that out of anything, most people would have been like, yeah, no, forget this mess. I'm just done for the day. That's not me. I know that for sure. All right. So this is the. All right. So I might as well tell you guys about the Mustang since well, almost all the Mustangs are in. The only thing we're missing is the S97 model, and we should be good. So, without further ado, let's get on started with the first Mustang, and that is this one, the original 1965 Ford Mustang Coupe. Now, there is a difference between the Coupe and the Fastback, and apparently the Fastback was more popular than I thought it was. And also, the reason that I'm doing Ford Mustangs because Ken Block and Ford are parting ways. So it may or may not be the last. So it may or may not be the last um time that we get to see the unicorn. So and I'm doing I'm doing every single Ford. Well, not every single Ford, but to be more specific, um the actually I'm also gonna include the Falcon on this one. So basically any Ford Australia. Um, so ready to do? Let's start now. I know you're thinking, wait, what about the hot rod? Well, the hot rod is questionable. This thing is a supercharger. Oh great. Let me look up what the okay, I want to include it, but I don't know what it's based on. Let's see. CarX Drift Racing Hot Rod. Uh, just give me a moment. What the? Oh, God, alright. Let's go from A to Z. D. Huh. Alright then. Okay, so looks like we're good to go. Anyways, so gonna skip all. So we're skipping all the way to the 1960s. And Ford was getting sick and tired of Chevrolet kicking their butts. So they decided to make something that will blow everyone's mind, and that is the pony car. But unfortunately, since it's Ford, they're bad at keeping secrets. As in, literally, 2 more years later, the Camaro came out, and unfortunately, it had more engine options than the Plymouth Barracuda. But here's the thing: the Barracuda was the first pony car, not the Mustang. The reason why it's the first pony car because a Mustang is a type of horse. So yeah. And how do I know this? Looked it up, and not to mention, want a bit up to speed? Uh, so anyways, here's the thing. The reason it was called the 65 is because it was known as a Ford Galaxy, and it was a Ford Galaxy that came out in 1964 and a half. So a year, and not to mention, like 6 months later, the Ford Mustang was born, and it sold like hotcakes. Can you imagine in the 1960s that is you're on your way to go to the Ford dealership, and it's like, oh, you're going to the dealership? Yeah, why? It's like, yo, it's like, dude, have you ever heard of the Mustang, man? Wait, the Mustang? I never heard of it before. What? It's the hottest thing ever. You should totally check it out. So okay. Um, what does it look like? Oh, it's beautiful. You'll see it for yourself. Okay. And then went to the dealership and found out that it is the most beautiful thing that they ever seen. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, people. I kind of have a stuffy nose. Well, go away eventually. Anyway. Ow. Huh. What was I? Oh yeah. Now it's quite obvious when things can actually go bad when obviously a lot of people want one piece of the Mustang. For example, Chevrolet, the rival company, decided to create the Chevrolet. Oh, everybody decides to create the Mustang Killer 2 years later, being the now really famous Chevrolet Camaro, and that too sold like hotcakes. And heck, even decide Dodge decided to make Dodge Charger a year before. And that's when it happened. The Ford Mustang got redesigned in 1967, and it was a pre facelift, and then a regular facelift, which actually designed the entire car right after it. And not to mention, the late 60s was a really dark time, especially when it comes to the late 60s, to the fact that back then there was such thing as the Vietnam War, and let's just say that it didn't work out in our favor as much as we did. In fact, in fact a lot, in fact a lot of, in fact a lot of people that were in the war wanted to because go home because of obviously they don't want to fight a war. So how did the 1965 through 60? Okay, so how did the 65 through 68 Ford Mustang went? It did pretty well for its time, selling over 1 million cars, and not to mention, there was in so many movies back then that I believe that it was bleh, basically. And I believe it was a very iconic car. That being the fastback from Bullet, uh, even Fast and Furious took a just used a Mustang, and heck, even Shelby, even Carol Shelby, the man behind the Shelby name, decided to create the newer Ford Mustangs. What was that? And I was mentioning, he actually has his own Ford Mustang that is tuned to make more than 350 horsepower, which at that time it's is unheard of in a small car. Usually when you think more horsepower, you were saying larger cars like a Lincoln or a Charger or heck even a Cadillac. And alright. Shoot, I need to find myself a tissue. I need to blow my nose. I apologize if you hear um, my nose blowing. Give me a moment. Alright, I'm back. Oh, okay. I sound good for now. Uh, Now you're wondering what type of stream it is? It is a dedication to the Mustang and, well, obviously the Mustang and Ford Falcon from Ford Australia. Due to the fact that Ken Block and the Ford Motor Company are parting ways. So most likely the dedication to this video, I'm gonna be talking about every single Mustang, including the Ford Falcon. Anyways, let's continue on with Chapter 2, the refaced Mustang. Now, for those who do not know, the Ford Mustang got a full-blown redesign in the late 60s. As in, literally, this thing was aggressive, meaner. In practicality, is probably the most out of the Mustang lineup. Anyways, there's also the thing called the boss treatment. Not boss treatment. There's also a thing called the boss package, which usually has a lot of people, getting more power from a naturally aspirated V8. At the same time, it can either get better or it can get worse, depending on how you want to. That's not how you want to deal with something like this. And how to deal with it, you ask? Well, it's quite simple. It's the fact that there's the original Mustang, there's the Mustang Boss 02, there's the Boss 3, there's the Boss 327, and then there is the Boss 429. So, so which one are we gonna be talking about here? Well, I'm also gonna be talking about the infamous Boss 429. And the Boss 429 had a bigger motor and had a lot more horsepower. But a lot of people also refer to the 302 because obviously, all of its horsepower is useful. Um, anyways, um, there is another interesting fact. Oh, right. I completely forgot about the other Shelby Mustang that came out in 1967, and that is the GT500. Now, for those that do not know, the Shelby GT500 was a Shelby GT350, only to be bored and stroked into 5 liters. Thus, the thus the GT500, and it did the same thing with this another Mustang, which was 1970 Mustang Boss 429, which had turned into a Shelby GT500 from back in the day. And there's even a Shelby Terlingua model. Now, for those who do not know, what the heck is the Terlingua? Well, is alright, I might as well just tell you because most people don't know what it is. Anyway, so what is a Shelby Terlingua? A Shelby Terlingua is a car. Excuse me. Shelby Terlingua is a Mustang that is a supposedly a Shelby replica, and not to mention, uh, it's one of the more forgotten Mustangs, especially since, well, they kind of discontinued in 2006. I would say 2011, remember correctly? I don't know. And niggas thinking, well, what kind of car is the Shelby Toledo? Well, I will tell you one thing for sure, and that is that this car is literally the best thing that ever happened and needs to be on the cover. Otherwise, it would have been a bunch of new cars that no one doesn't know how to use. Anyway, now for those who don't know, in 1973 they got facelifted Mustang. Unfortunately, they're also okay. Here's the thing: it gone from bad to worse when it comes to things like this. Well, this is way worse. What what am I talking about? Obviously, the gas crisis. So, for those who do not know, the gas crisis was a thing back in the 70s, where someone from another country ended up hitting gold, hitting um, and you know how like oilers make money off of gold oil. Well, here's the thing. Turns out that that oil was from the U.S. and we were forced to actually create vehicles that are well efficient. to the point where literally a lot of us wanted to have the point to well, one of us had to get one of these days. But don't worry, it usually happens like this. Excuse me. But anyway, now how does this work? Because obviously the gas crisis ended up destroying everything back in the 70s. And thus it was the, the birth of the Mustang 2, which was by far the worst Mustang to ever come out in the 1970s. Oh, as well as the King Cobra package. Good luck, that thing. The good luck of it. Not good luck. Well, here's the thing. There's also a thing known as the King Cobra edition. Oh, you wonder if it's fast or not? Well, good luck. That match is only ecstatic, and the only difference mentioned this is coming from a Sting fans were not happy to the point where literally anyone decides to buy Camaro. Yeah. Um. Oh dear God! Don't get me started on. Don't get me started on the on everything. The Ford Probe. Wait, hold on. Are you forgetting something? What? Are you? Were you also going to talk about Ford Australia? Wait, Ford Australia. Oh, frick! I forgot. I can't believe I forgot about the Ford Falcon. The Ford what? Yeah, Ford Falcon. 1972. Yeah. So, what is the Ford Falcon? Well, here's the thing. Uh, Sorry about that. Um, let's see. Found it. Right. Yeah, just give me a moment. Thank you. All right. Take the wing off and. All right. There we go. Anyway. Anyways, so most likely while the U.S. forced to actually cope with the gas crisis, Australia was doing fine, and not to mention, um, well, here's the thing: we never gotten any of the cars in the U.S. Why? Because because half the time, I think the Australians are still angry at us with actually copying their designs in terms of two other very own muscle cars. And if you're wondering what those cars were, it was the Chevrolet El Camino and their you see, uh, you got one of their Utes, which we would know it as the Chevrolet El Camino. But at the same time, we had the Ford Ranchero, which is a Ute version of the Ford Gran Torino. Anyways, while Ford, while Ford Australia was doing well, Ford US was having a crisis. They were wondering how can we actually win our fans back? Because everybody's going to Chevy. Why do they want to go to Chevy? It's like because of that mess you call a Mustang 2, and yeah, not even like 2 years. That well, not 2 years. Let's see, not even after 3 whole years, they just they decide to discontinue the Mustang 2 and went with the newer Mustang. Now is the 1980s, well, late 80s, well, almost all 80s and early 90s, and early 1990. They decided to actually make their new vehicle. And what's their new vehicle, you ask? Here's a hint. Is it? It's not defined by their own. It's not defined by year. It's defined by the shape of it. And yeah, well, if you guess Fog's body, you're absolutely correct because you either own one, you've seen one in video games, or you looked it up. Because there's no way you have actually no, there's actually no way you have guessed it. All right. So, what makes the Fog's body special? Well, that's kind of a stupid question because most do not know this was the birth of the this was the birth of the 5.0 badge. Now you're wondering, 5.0? Wait, wait a second, 5.0? Well, yeah. You know, Pacific, this was the birth of the 5-liter V8s that you probably would see in every single uh, Mustang moving forward. But unfortunately, due to the fact that this specific Mustang can only rev up to 5,000 RPM. Yeah, it's kind of pathetic, but what you expect out of a 5-liter V8 and from a late 80s, early 90s Mustang. So, yeah, I'm gonna talk about the rest of the Mustangs while I'm drifting this Fox body because why not? Uh, anyways, so Ford decides, you know what? Everybody like the new Fox body. We should make the Ford Probe in Mustang. Nope, nope, we're going back to the Camaros. Oh great, we're doing this again. Stop trying to make things into another Mustang. Not all things can be a Mustang, sir. Oh, we'll see about that. So they decided to redesign the Mustang into the SN95 chassis. For those that do not know, the SN95 chassis is literally the same thing as having a what's it called? Is on par with is the same chassis that is in the Ford Thunderbird and the Lincoln Mark 7 Continental. I think. I don't know. But well, excuse me. More or less, the Mustangs can be. The Mustangs can be a pain to look at. The fact that it is one of the many Mustangs that you see that are going up against Camaros that are second gen or even third gen actually. And here's a SN95 and again a facelift, which will be known as the New Age Mustang. And to be more specific, there are 3 variants of it. There's the SVT Cobra R, there is the Mustang GT, and it has something called the Terminator. So, what is the Terminator exactly? Well, to be very specific, the Terminator was a top of the line, no top of the line, no questions asked type of car. Now, how does this work? Usually, the car came with a ridiculously loud supercharger, and it has a lot of power to the point where you're thinking you're driving around a supercar. This type is rear-wheel drive and it can literally kill you. Yeah. There's also the controversy back in the 90s where literally if you have a Ford, then your starter is faulty. So yeah. Uh, now what was I in terms of the actual cars themselves? Oh yeah. Um, these type of cars can be useful. Just I, just don't accept. I just whatever you do not make the Mustang purists mad. In fact, in fact, I know one Mustang that made the made Mustang purists so mad that it cites and they wanted her to sell the car immediately. It's like, no, it's her car. She can do whatever she wants with it. And guess what? She swapped it out last with it. So, yeah. I mean, trust me, I would have gone with the Genesis VA myself if I wanted to. But that's not what I'm doing now, is it? uh, anyways, 1995 is about to end, and it was 2004, and the Detroit Motor Show decided to reveal the new car. Well, what's Ford gonna bring in this time? Oh, that's interesting. It looks like the Mustang from before, but newer. Like, are you sure? Are you sure that's not a 65? Like, behold, 2004. Behold, 2005 Ford Mustang. Yeah, 2005 was probably the best year for the Mustang. The fact that the SN90, the fact that the new retro design look actually, actually conquered, it actually captured the hearts of young, old men, women, children, even parents want to give these cars to the kids when they gone old. Anyway, now about the SN97, the car itself is pretty amazing. Well, except for the fact that it has an independent rear suspension. And not to mention, most people can actually just buy the car out the gate without learning how to drive it. It's like, oh, I know how to drive a Mustang. It's like, Are you sure you know how to drive a Mustang? Because pretty sure I remember correctly, you don't just slam the gas pedal into a crowd. Yeah. That's the only joke you're gonna. That's the only Mustang joke you're gonna hear. Trust me on that. Anyway. Anyways, while most people know how to actually handle a Mustang, unfortunately there are the younger audience who actually own a Mustang decide to literally full on throttle out of the parking lot, only to meet with a couple of crowds. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the only Mustang joke you get out of me. Anyway, it did pretty well to the point where another Shelby Gt500 actually came out and is like, you know what? Let's make this Mustang possible. So they decided to tune the V6 variant of the Mustang, and it made more power than the 5.0s. Yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, Living for Australia. Uh, we have we have ever heard from the we haven't heard from Ford from the Down Under, ever since the Ford Falcon fiasco, and yeah, they got themselves a new Falcon, and not to mention they were doing pretty good. They also kept the V8s from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even discovered that they have something that is on par with the 2J. Oh, hey, welcome to the live stream. Right now, due to the fact that Ken Block and Ford are parting ways, I decided to actually talk about the Ford Mustang and its entire lineup. So, yeah. Why am I not surprised? No, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So it turns out how many Mustangs were sold. Well, it's not as much as the. Well, it's not as much as the. Excuse me. It's not as much as the original 65 Mustang, but the 2005 Mustang did sell pretty well. And not to mention, how many people didn't realize that the Mustang was actually one of the only vehicles that can actually sell like hotcakes. A lot. And and not to mention, uh, the Shelby came back even. Yeah, that's right. The Ford Shelby wasn't even with the New Age Mustang. Instead, it was instead the Shelby was the Terminator. So yeah, you can say that the Terminator was literally just a rebadged Shelby GT500. And speaking of the GT500, there are two variants of GT. Bleh, HPT. Back in 2006, um, back in late 2006, they decided to actually decided to make the Mustang into the Shelby. And which one would they call it? They have two variants. One of them was the GT500, and the other one is the GT500KR. KR meaning King of the Road. Literally, having more power than your average Shelby. And it is until 2009 where we end up seeing the new facelift of the Ford Mustang. And in that moment, from 2009 to 2014 was one of the best years that they ever had. And by best years, I meant they literally had the S97 model being facelifted from 2009 to 2011, and then a post facelift from 2012 to 2014. And not to mention, each and every single Mustang that they produce is a lot better than the last one. Its final edition would have been the GT500, but the GT500 would have been a much more cooler car to actually own. Due to the fact that the car originally came with tinted taillights. And yeah, if you are a fan of those, then don't blame me. Blame the blame the blame the blame the design people. Blame the people designing the what's that called? Blame the people designing the newer Mustangs. Anyway, let's move on to the final Mustang, and that'll be this. The Shelby GT3. Not messing you guys. Anyway, oh my god. Alright. Alright, so what about I know you guys think it. Well, what about the 2015 to 2015 to 2020 Mustang? Well, I'm about to talk about that right now. The newer Mustang came out in 2015, and it was dubbed the S550 Mustang due to the fact the SN97, the SN type name didn't work out, so they decided to name it after literally one letter and 5 numbers. So what they chose, S550, which literally means that this is one of the newer Mustangs, and there's nothing you can do about it. And not to mention, it had more of a sports car look. Well, only the main difference being that this Mustang look can actually benefit on how much the car actually makes. Now, unlike its predecessors, the Mustang only had the Mustang originally came with a V8, but you can also pair it with a EcoBoost V6 to even an EcoBoost 4-cylinder. So yeah, you can say that without a doubt, it became a sports car. But unfortunately, due to the fact that there are two companies that decided to kill out their V6 variant of their current cars. One's the Mustang, and the other one being Honda with the Accord Coupe V6. So, yeah, about how many people wondering why they redesigned the Mustang to look the way it is. Because obviously, people will prefer cars that are most people prefer cars that are either a uh efficient with environments, B full on aerodynamics that has power back to it, or C revert to the old ways where most things was easy. At the same time, it was kind of difficult for a car enthusiast back in 20 back in literally the 2010s. Oh how how my very old self will laugh at my 15-year-old self because of how many cars there are in any video game period. Anyway, a year later we will be giving two Shelby variants. Oh, and also in 2012, Carol Shelby passed away uh, due to a heart disease, and Yeah, it was it's R.I.P. Shelby, and so in collaborate in in his memory, they um decided to remake his Ford Shelby GT500KR, known as King of the Road, and that's about it. So other than the Mustang GT, Mustang EcoBoosts, we also had two more variants back in 2016. That is the GT350 and the GT350R. Now, what's the difference between those two? Well, the GT350 didn't have an ex- didn't have a, didn't have a horsepower increase, while while the GT350R came with literally a supercharger and something known as the Voodoo engine, being a 5.2 liter flat crank V8, which, yeah, wondering why many people find out that the GT350Rs are a lot more expensive than the GT350s. It's because you're paying for the 5.2 liter flat, flat crank V8 and you're paying for the supercharger. Oh, great. Where was I? Oh yeah. Um. Anyway, so obviously in 2017 they will do something cool. Well, yeah, they did. They have. Well, here's the thing. Have you heard of RTR? Yeah, back in back in 2009, 2012. I see, back in 2009 or 2010, depending on how you prefer. Uh, there is a team known as RTR, and decided to make ridiculously loud but ridiculously fast Ford Mustangs. Dubbed the Ford Mustang RTR Spec 1, Spec 2, the Spec 1 through Spec 5. And heck, there's even a Spec 7, and I hadn't even heard of that before. Anyways, so why did RTR decide to make cooler but faster Mustangs? Because obviously they're the ones obviously they're the ones that they're also responsible for making the RTRX, a resto mod Ford Mustang with, I think, had a Coyote motor. I don't know. From what I heard is that it is fun to drive. Huh. Oh great. Oh god. Come on. Crap. Okay. Alright. Now, what about 2018? Oh boy, this is where it gets ugly. Alright, so for those who do not know, back in 2009, back in 2018, the Mustang, well, not 2018, 2017, the Mustang was, let's see, Ford revealed that it's going to have a facelift, which it made it more uglier than the last one. The last one at least looks pretty cool, but in my opinion, it just like it's not ugly like the Mustang 2, but it's just it was just unnecessary. Like they would have went with like an even more angrier face, and instead of a and not to mention a lot of people likes painting the middle section of the front bumper. So they would have done. Yeah. So okay. In my opinion, here's what they should have done. They could have, they could have obviously made the headlights more angrier, but they should have just kept the grill. They should have kept the grill shape as well as the bumper shape, so that way it would have been interesting to have a painted section on the Mustang, the painted middle section of the front bumper of the Mustangs, because what most people don't know is the fact that this type of bumper usually gets replaced with another. So, yeah. Well, what the heck? What's that smell? It smells like, oh my god, I can't believe it. They actually they actually give us something that we didn't expect. The Shelby Gt500. It's back with more power than ever. Not to mention, the GT500s are literally ludicrous in terms of what it is. So, how ludicrous can it get? Well, let's see. If you add a upgraded supercharger and push around 755 horsepower, yeah, you got yourself a lucky one. And by lucky one, I mean it is literally the most ridiculous thing to ever happen in Ford's history. Like, how in the world do they make something more powerful than the newest Ford GT? And oh my goodness. And oh right. Let's talk. Alright, before I stop talking about the Mustang, let's talk about the electric elephant in the room. The Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now like a couple of people will be like, wait a minute, what about the newest Shelby Signature Edition? The Shelby Signature Edition is another Ford Shelby GT500, but cheaper. The Mustang Mach-E, on the other hand, is to be considered the newest quote unquote Mustang. And here's like I'm doing air quotations because my hands are on the controller. Um, so in my opinion, if they're going to do an electric Mustang, they could just get the shape. But no, instead, oh, let's turn it into a crossover SUV. Now, alright, so for those that are not into Chevys, you might want to look at what Chevy has done over the past couple of years. Even though, yes, the C8 Corvette is controversial, but here's the thing: that's what the designer for the new Corvette wants. They wanted a, they wanted a, basically, they wanted to have a send off to the newest the newest Corvette because the original Corvette uses a push rod V8 and and most people didn't realize that the C7 was the last of the generation, last of the actual generation of Corvettes to use the push rod V8 and in favor of a flat crank V8. And along with that, even the newest Camaro will have gotten the ZL1 treatment. And not to mention, um, I say, you know what? Let's look at General Motors entirely. Now, for those that are not into General Motors, you might as well click out now because you might not want to hear it. But this is what I'm hearing. The Cadillacs are. Let's see, Cadillac is making a new in the CTSV known as the CT5V Blackwing and the CT4V Blackwing. Chevrolet has plans for a new Corvette Z06 for 2022 or 2021, depending on how things work, how things are going for a couple of years from now. There's even going to be a new Corvette. No, there's also going to be a new Camaro ZL1 for the new generation of Camaros. And well, heck, Buick is probably the best seller that can it's literally the best selling vehicle to ever been produced ever since the Grand National. As well as wait a minute, hold on. What about GMC? Because most people normally don't talk about GMC. Well, here's the thing. They had that electric super truck, which I don't know. Most people would think like, oh, it's gonna be on par with the Mustang. It says, but I'm pretty sure the new Mustang Mach-E is not what it's going to go for. It's going after the new Tesla Model Ys, and I'm pretty sure that the Tesla Model Ys are going to literally have the Mustang Mach-E eat dust because this Model Y has more range than an average Mustang. And heck, they even brought back the Blazer. Now, what has Ford had done so far? They gave us the Signature Edition Shelby, they gave us the new Bronco, but they turned a Mustang into an electric SUV. Now, And trust me, and trust me. Let me tell you on for some reason on what things gonna happen in the future. It's like the new Maki comes out this year, and oh, and no joke, someone legit comment on my comment on the on the Dominator GTX and GTA 5 customization video, and he's like, man, almost like man, all it's like imagine like dude, all the characters gonna think, oh yeah, they own a Mustang when they didn't like realize on what a Mustang actually is or what it's supposed to look like, and most likely, I will say is that it is going to be pretty much the truth. Like most people would not know what's the difference between the Mustang Mach-E and a regular old Ford Mustang. They'll say, "Oh, so that's the Mustang?" Yeah, and it's like, okay, then what is this? And I'm like, and it's gonna be like a monstrosity. That's what it is. It's a monstrosity. Now, here's what I think, and this is my personal opinion, but it's gonna go down the same way that the Eclipse Cross did, and it will not be received pretty well. Not to mention, if anything, they're gonna lose even more money because no one's gonna buy these. No gonna buy these electric SUVs that has a has, has a Mustang plaque to it. So here's my opinion: they should ditch the SUV idea and just go with an electric Mustang. I mean, then again, Mercedes did it before, and it was and it was literally for a brand, literally for the SLS. And heck, even Tesla had more luck as an electric car company than any other car company in general. So next time, if you want to please your audience, don't plaster your name on a different vehicle. Like what should we? But and again, if I was the leader of the 14 that was developing this monstrosity, what will I name it? Well, actually it's quite simple. I would just name it the Mach-E, not the Mustang Mach-E, just the Mach-E. Now you wondering why the Mach-E? Well, quite simple. Because if you name it the Mach-E, they would have realized they have a like literally the Mach-E would have been like, oh okay, that was okay, it's actually fine. But when it comes to being in a Mustang, on the other hand, it would have been okay. So yeah, there's the Mustang, and then there's the Mach-E. There would have been two different identities instead of one. So I guessing that's about it for um. So I guess that's about it for about the history and my tiny bit of rant on the new tiny little rant on the new Mustang that's about to come out soon. Um, and also for those that work at Ford, I apologize, but it is my personal opinion, and yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoy this live stream. Leave a like, subscribe, comment down below what you see next. Also follow me on Instagram at Goddrifter247sun, and follow me on Twitter at wait no, wrong. I keep getting this wrong every time. My Instagram is at Goddrifter247sun, and follow me on Twitter at GD27S at Goddrifter247sun. And last but certainly not least, you can follow. You can actually join up my Discord. It is known as Goddrifter247sun, but 27sun Production's Garage and Museum. And last but certainly not least, I'm gonna be streaming later. Down tonight on. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, of anything, it's not as bad. But just a heads up, um, I want to do a rate. I want to rate the characters I played in Soul Calibur 6. So yeah, if you guys haven't watched my recent podcast, you will notice that the characters I had, the characters I've made, all have been redesigned. So yeah, without further ado, hope to see you guys later, and hope to see you guys later. Hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. And this is probably gonna be my last time doing 2 live streams at once, because once class starts, I'm gonna be doing one per day. So, or I can do an early stream and then do a afternoon stream. So, without any further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this live stream, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Goddrifter signing off. Peace.